As you know, we are going to be waiting a very long time for Janus Towers, which has recently been confirmed on the latest episode of the Call of Duty podcast to be the final Black Ops 6 Zombies DLC map. Yes, that's right, it's DLC 4, and the DLC 5 rumors have proven to be false. It's confirmed to release now at the start of Season 5, previously it was just speculation, but Season 4 is a very long season, so we won't be seeing Season 5 until the 7th of August unless the date gets slightly shifted around. We will have to wait and see, considering they've delayed many seasons in the past. Now, let me know your thoughts on that, because I think this is changing a lot of perspective on how people feel about the Zombies content for Black Ops 6 so far, because I think Black Ops 6 Zombies started off really well because they were just pumping maps out so quickly. There was so much hype. They released Citadel Day more so soon after release, and then we got the Tomb very soon after that as well, much earlier than we've ever gotten a DLC 2 before. So by January, we already had 2 DLC maps, but the Tomb, of course, is a much smaller map than most maps we've ever gotten. It feels like a more classic map, like a Black Ops 1 map with its layout, and personally, I do think that the Tomb is a great map. Storyline-wise, it's not that great, and I definitely think the Tomb is where the storyline started dwindling off. I think it started strong with Citadel Day more in terms of the DLC story. It started very well at launch, but in hindsight, we started realizing things about the Citadel Day more story that seemed jarring, like why on earth they brought back Kraft just to kill him off straight away. It was clearly just for the plot twist of him being Richthofen's adoptive father, and that was about it. And unfortunately, the story just hasn't lived up to what we were all anticipating before launch and even at launch. But I think a lot of people made the excuse for the Tomb being a more Liberty Falls, a smaller map, because they thought we were going to be getting a brand new Zombies map every single season, or at least a DLC 5, more than we've usually gotten. So people thought, you know, it's fine if they mix in 1 or 2 little small maps in the DLC, because we're still going to get some more of the medium to larger maps coming as well. But now that it's confirmed we're not going to be getting a DLC 5, it's definitely making people re-evaluate the DLC content and also question Treyarch's decisions as why they chose to release all of the Zombies content so fast and then have a massive wait until Janus Towers, which really does feel jarring. But I've been speculating for a while now that we wouldn't be seeing a DLC 5 for 2 simple reasons. Treyarch are making Black Ops 7 Zombies simultaneously, which has already received a teaser. They have to be pumping out an insane amount of content, and really, I think that's the biggest reason why we've not gotten more maps for Black Ops 6 Zombies. If Treyarch were not making Black Ops 7 Zombies as well, all of that content could be in Black Ops 6 as well. And unfortunately, that's the problem with the Call of Duty cycle. They're always just focused on the next project instead of just focusing on one, and that brings me on to the second reason. The original characters are returning for Black Ops 7 Zombies, and that's why I think they released the map so quickly, because I assume that when we get Janus Towers and the original crew returns inevitably, that's going to leave us onto a cliffhanger to lead us in to when the Black Ops 7 Zombies reveal will happen, which is probably going to be right after in August. We'll see probably the full game reveal sooner than that, maybe, as they have said that the full reveal will be later in the summer, so probably August or September. But yeah, I think those are the 2 biggest reasons. Now, you can hate on Treyarch all you want. I definitely understand why people are annoyed, but I do think that this is a problem with Activision executives and business decisions that cause this to happen, because Treyarch have just done too much. They're working on too much, and we really could have gotten a year 2 for Black Ops 6 Zombies. There's not really a need to jump ship to a brand new game. They could have just continued releasing maps for it, and I think that would have been a better route to go, but the Call of Duty cycle does not accommodate for that. They need to get us to buy a whole other game that's just going to be a repackaged version of the same game we already received, unfortunately. And I do think they were a bit misleading with rushing out the maps so quickly. I think they did it intentionally because they knew that it would make us think that we would be getting more maps than ever before, and it would keep the hype and excitement and engagement really high during the first few months of the game's release, but then it would drop off during the wait for Janus Towers. But they needed to do that because let's say there was a big wait between, you know, the launch and Citadel Day more and the Tomb, we would have received these maps so differently, especially with how we received the Tomb. We would have been less forgiving of the map being a smaller map than we're used to. Not that it's a bad map, like I said, but it definitely is not on the same caliber as a DLC map that we usually expect nowadays. I'm fine for Treyarch to do smaller maps like this. I think they work really well, but only in addition addition to the regular 4 maps. I do think that this was Treyarch intentionally baiting the community, and it is a shame, and they could have come out straight away and said at any point that we're just going to be getting the 4 regular DLCs like we're used to. But if they did that, people, I guaranteed, would have hated on this content more. So they couldn't be honest about it. I think Black Ops 6 Zombies, and I've said this many times before, really feels like TikTok, and I think it's a problem with media in general right now. Movies, shows, games, they all are just going for these quick moments, these hype factors, and they're just pumping out content at extremely fast paces because our attention spans are getting fried more and more. But it creates a negative multiplayer effect because our attention spans are getting worse because social media and media in general is trying to cater towards that, but in trying to cater towards our attention spans getting worse, it in turn also makes our attention spans get worse, which only further amplifies the cycle. It really feels like Black Ops 6 Zombies' maps are not meant and not built to last. They're meant to just be a quick hype moment here and there to get you excited for a little bit, but then you immediately start thinking about what's next. And that's why I think this drought for Janus Towers is really going to feel long. And I know lots of people are saying, you know, why are people hating on this? We always get 4 usual maps. Why is this any different? And I think it's because of that precedent set. They said before release they have had longer than ever to develop this game. They had 4 years of development, which ended up basically being a lie because they were working on Black Ops 7 Zombies, Vanguard Zombies, and Modern Warfare Zombies simultaneously. So they were spread out across many pieces of projects, so they were not able to just focus on Black Ops 6 Zombies, which should have been the big hitter. And it feels like instead of just getting us to buy 1 game, they're trying to milk us to buy 2 games by releasing Black Ops 6 and 7 back to back. Because obviously there's Zombies fans that will just skip the Call of Duty games when there's not zombies. And I guarantee Black Ops 7 Zombies' systems are going to be very similar to this game, so it really will feel quite like a DLC, but with the original characters and, you know, maybe some better locations as have been leaked. So I think that's why there's been more backlash than ever, combined with the fact that the maps just do not have that level of depth that we are used to. I think Shad Vale has more compared to the other ones, and Terminus. Both of those are very rich maps, but definitely the others just don't have that level of depth in terms of the environment, in terms of the narrative, in terms of the lore, to hold us over between the content releases. And we don't consume these maps in the same way like we used to, where we really used to analyze for months and months, years on years. I think that's in part because the culture's changed, we have changed, but I also think it's because the maps are not built for this way either. And like I said before, it's kind of creating this negative amplifier effect for either side of it. And bringing me on to the misleading marketing stuff, I think that them mitigating the fact that there would just be 4 maps until now, I think was intentionally done, but I think they were also misleading by the fact that they only announced Janus Towers is the final map in the Call of Duty podcast. Literally deep into the podcast, you have to consume this massive video which barely anyone's going to watch. So they are trying to intentionally hide this news because it is bad news. And I think that the Call of Duty podcast is just a terrible way of conveying breaking information. And I think it kind of comes across really scripted, especially when they have people on that aren't actually actively involved in the Zombies development team. They had no one from the Zombies development team talking about this stuff. I think the COD pod should just be used for behind the scenes stuff, like they show in this one in particular. They were showing stuff to do with the CGI and the motion capping. That stuff's all good, but for announcing information, it's god awful. And like I say, I think it was used in this instance to hide information to try and make it more difficult for people to locate, because I guarantee most people who found this out just found it out from people reporting about it on Twitter, not even from the official Call of Duty channels. The official Call of Duty Twitter has not posted about what the COD pod actually says. You have to click an external link to watch this entire massive thing, and no one's going to do that. And I think that is quite shady for them to hide this seemingly bad news for the community in this, because they knew they would get backlash from it. And the same goes with them announcing in this podcast that Black Ops 7 won't have wall running or boost jumping like's been previously rumored. I think lots of people don't like this, including I. It's apparently just going to have the ability to jump off of walls instead and bounce off of them. We don't know exactly how it'll work, and I think that's another bad piece of news that, again, they hid within this massive podcast that no one's going to watch. And personally, I just find the podcast really boring. That's just my honest opinion. And judging from the comments on Twitter as well, a lot of other people feel similarly. So the fact they're hiding this in a piece that lots of people just are not interested in watching is crazy to me. But yeah, regardless of DLC 4, what do we have for the meantime whilst waiting for Season 5? Well, we have Season 4 Reloaded, and we don't have the confirmed release date, but it's possible it's going to be on July 3rd based on the Rivals end date, but we don't know for sure. We will be getting a new event camo, the Olympian pickaxe will be coming, the Fringe Black Ops 3 multiplayer map, and there's going to be the new Starting Room Zombies LTM, which, by the way they worded it in the blog before made it sound like it would be in starting room areas, so you could explore on more than just the starting room. However, they've recently said that is just going to be the starting room. However, I think they're going to add some perks and other machine locations in there that aren't traditionally in the starting rooms to make it better. They will also be adding this other LTM called the Abomination Challenge, which is going to be on Liberty Falls, but for some weird reason they have the cartoon filter on it. I have no idea why. It's described as a warped version of Liberty Falls, so when I read that before, I thought it was going to be like a reskinned version of the map, similar to what we got with the Jingle Hells, but it's not. It's just literally got this weird filter on, which makes everything look ugly. I don't know why they do that. They could have this LTM without doing that. What's the point? I don't get it. But you're just going to have to hunt down an ultra powered up Abomination HVT that's probably going to have a lot of health. So yeah, I'm interested to see how that plays out, if it's actually like a really difficult boss you have to fight, because it would be weird for it to be underwhelming for an LTM. I don't know how exactly this is going to work, but yeah, we have very little details on what they'll actually be. But the LTMs have not been that great thus far, so we'll have to see how these ones play out, but at least it's a little bit of content to fill the gap whilst waiting for the next map. But I really hope that Treyarch can take the feedback on board for this game and they can release a map every single season. I think, honestly, with the way that our attention spans are fried so much so, I think we do need a map every single season. And I do think that data that they've gotten from the first few seasons, where they had maps back to back, would suggest to them it's in their benefit to have a map every single season, because I would imagine it kept engagement high doing that and probably boosted the microtransaction revenue. Then otherwise, I would imagine this season, where we don't have a new map and we just have grief, has not been as high engagement wise. Obviously, we don't know because we cannot see their stats, but I think that's another reason why they released the maps back to back. I think it was another way to test if they can do it for the future. The unfortunate thing is, though, Black Ops 7 Zombies has been in development for a long time, so even if the data suggests to do a map every single season, and even if they want to do that, which I personally think they wanted to do for Black Ops 6, but because they were working on Black Ops 7 at the same time and Modern Warfare Zombies, it probably halted the ability to do that. Because of that, I just think it might be too short notice to action that in Black Ops 7, to be able to have a map every single season for Black Ops 7. It might just be too short notice, so they might not even be able to implement this until the game after Black Ops 7, Black Ops 8, whenever that ends up releasing. I have no idea, and that's the unfortunate thing about the COD cycle. By the time they have the data to take feedback on board, they're not able to action it until years and years down the line. But I think they should do what they tried to do with the Tomb. I think, you know, they should have 3 or 4 medium to large maps, and then they can have 2 or 3 smaller maps like the Tomb, like Liberty Falls, in between, that can still move the narrative somewhat forward. Or I think another good option is just having remakes of past maps. Bring back the Eisendrache, bring back the Bangers. I think a lot of these maps would play very well actually with the new zombie systems as well. And of course, remakes and remasters still take a lot of time to development. I'm not saying it's easy, however, it is a lot easier than a fully fledged new map, which they have to create the concept for the environment and everything and the layout, blah blah blah, whereas they already have the map concept done. They just need to make it look better. I think this would be great. You know, they can have 2 or 3 remakes or remasters in the post-launch, 3 or 4 new maps, mix and match. They can have at least a couple remakes or remasters with 4 new maps at least. I think that would be a great way to go and bring back some of the greats. I just don't know what they would do storyline wise. Would these just be full-on remasters? Obviously that would be easier to do, but it wouldn't make any sense to do with the Dark Ether narrative. Or would they remake them and have them have new Easter eggs, a whole new storyline and lore behind them? I guess it could make sense. We know Black Ops 7 Zombies, for example, is going into the heart of the Dark Ether, and we know that the old multiverse got thrown entirely into the Dark Ether. So now is the perfect opportunity to bring back remakes, but now in warped realities in the Dark Ether itself, and that way they would have a new Easter egg and a new purpose, but of course there would be callbacks and references to the old story in it, in the intel and the lore, etc., but it would be a new narrative. But the problem is, a lot of the maps, for example, I mentioned the Eisendrache, they're just magnificent on their own. It would be a lot better just getting a remaster, honestly, than a remake, which probably wouldn't be as good as the originals, especially because a big reason why the Eisendrache is so great is because of the story and the Easter egg. If they did a new Easter egg and a new story for it, I guarantee it just would not be as good. But yeah, I've been rambling for a while now, but let me know all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.